Hello, dear students. This is our second chapter of project analysis and evaluation. I hope you got a lot of points out of the first chapter, which is introductory part of the course. And this second chapter is again the maybe the decisive stage of project analysis and evaluation because it is all about planning. When it comes to project planning is the one or the stage that takes the major position, the main point of the project uh, analysis and evaluation stage. So I hope you are going to seriously consider this part. So before again I proceed with the video lecture, meaning that before I proceed with the main point of the chapter, let me start with planning. As you may know, planning is the most important activity in any work, in any uh, action, in any decision. It helps a lot because it is the thing that comes before you take action. Uh, Whether you are conscious of it or not, planning has the major position in our life uh, because particularly it saves your maybe resource. It helps you to mitigate risks that you may face because by the way planning comes before action, or it is foretelling what you are going to do just ahead of time. Therefore, planning is the most important part in any activity. When it comes to project, its relevance is more and more. So we have to consider planning very seriously in our daily life or in action we take and so forth. Therefore, before I proceed again, let us start with a short quote of planning, which reads as: "If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail." This works in your entire life, in any action you take. Therefore, before you go for action, it is maybe a matter of necessity to plan because you know what you are going to do, how far you have to go, how much you want to spend, when and by whom you are going to take that action will be made ready as far as your work is concerned. So planning helps you a lot in any area. It means uh, again, as far as the project management process is concerned, in general, there are very important stages of project planning phases or steps. The first one is define project. As you may know, definition of project is the very important stage because it helps you to state the needs you want to achieve, you want to meet, and or the problems you want to address again and or the opportunity you want to exploit. This is one. Why you define project? Because you state need, you properly state the problem that you are going to address, that you are going to alleviate, or that you are going to contribute to solve. using project as a tool, and or the opportunity that you want to exploit, which existed in the environment. This is one. The other is just you define your project objectives. Unless and otherwise, you clearly know the objectives that your project is going to achieve, it is again of no use to talk about project. Therefore, project definition helps you to clearly know your objectives. Again, uh, just to identify your success criteria, or this is simply standard. Uh, your success will be measured, and then that measured success will be evaluated using the standards. From the standards, how much you are successful relative to the standards. Are you below or above the standards will be just known. The other one is just you want to really know the assumptions, the risks, and the obstacles in the project. So defining your project will let you know these things. Because as you may know, in the future there is nothing certain. Therefore, just before you go for spending, you have to take some assumptions. For instance, assumption may be the political, legal environment, the maybe the situation that may disturb your project activity. Say, for example, COVID-19. If you take COVID-19, you don't know what will happen concerning this disease, and at the same time, you may not you may have some projects to be undertaken, but being on today, you don't know what will happen in the future. Therefore, the only thing that you can do is to take some assumption. You may assume that the disease will go away after 1 year, after 2 years, after 6 months, and so forth. This is assumption. Simply the supposition that you take by just calculating, or by using common sense, it could be, or by using some statistical procedures, or anyways, there is the situation that lets you do something. Therefore, you anyways define the situation of the future. This is simply assumption. So in relation to this, there are risks. You cannot avoid, or you cannot totally cancel risks. Risks always exist. Therefore, you take some level of risk. If you don't want to take risk, don't just talk about anything you want to achieve, because risk is always there. So the risk is undesirable condition, actually. The probability that something wrong, something adverse to your objective will happen in the future. It is measurable, actually. Risk is measurable. It is measured using probability, actually. And maybe lastly, in the definition of the project, you define the project scope, the work breakdown structure, the sub activities, uh, the corresponding resources you want to deploy, and so forth. Therefore, the definition of project helps a lot actually in uh, just going through these important points. This is the first step of project management process. The second one is the development of detailed plan. After we have defined our project, the next one is just the planning phase, which we are going to see in this chapter. So, in general, in the development of detailed plan, there are issues we want to really address. The first thing is to identify the project activities. In fact, planning is about what? The future activities. Just trying to uh, know, trying to put logically the activities that we are going to carry out, how those activities are carried out, by whom those activities are carried out, when they are going to be carried out, and so forth will be uh, the things that are going to be accommodated by the plan. The other thing is the estimate activity duration. This is just converting the activities or just uh, assigning the duration, the time it takes for a given activity to be completed. Again, time involves resource, labor involves resource. So, to carry out those activities within a given time, resources are required. Therefore, planning involves determination of resources required. Then, just to logically and visually show the sequence of activities with a predecessor and a successor, the construction of a project network is a matter of necessity. Networking, project networking is an important issue again as far as the project plan is concerned. Sorry. And maybe lastly, you go for project schedule. This is the details of works with their respective time frame. Details of the work activities with their timetable. This is just project scheduling. So these things will also be needed. And again, we go for launching the plan. This is in another way. This is the third phase of project management. As we said, defining project is the first one. Develop detailed plan. This is planning phase shortly. Third one is launching plan, meaning that just going for execution or implementation phase. So now the plan will be converted to the reality by this phase. For instance, this phase may include recruit and organize project team members, people. Involvement of people is critical. There are different teams maybe for a very simple uh, project. Imagine how much teams are needed if the project is getting complex and complex. So, establishment of project team with their project organization, with the corresponding project organization is needed. Therefore, project organization, as we tried to discuss in the first chapter, is needed. It has its own authority. It has its own reporting relationship. Members of that project team, project organization, will have their own reporting relationship. Then you establish the operating rules for your team, because it is a guiding principle. It holds the team members together. Someone who is abided by that rule and who performs up to the standard may be rewarded, and those who breach those rules will be penalized, maybe, or may be corrective actions will be taken on them, and so forth. Therefore, just rules, operating rules will be needed. So project will have its own rules, procedures, regulations, and the level of project resources will be leveling of project resource will be needed. Therefore, corresponding to the scope of our project, corresponding to the level of intensity of our project, the resources will be assigned, leveled, and accordingly the project will be carried out, and then assign the works to the team members, to the project members, then accordingly you do it. Once you completed this, which is the third stage, you go for the fourth stage, which is monitoring and control process. Control process. This stage is just the thing that will take place after the project implementation. Project implementation. So this may include establish progress reporting system is the most important thing. So monitoring and the control is another most important issue which needs to be considered in the project management process. This monitoring helps one to really understand how much your performance, your implementation, your execution goes with the plan. With a plan. Therefore, in doing so, we have to establish progress reporting system. Maybe the system consists of when, by whom, how the progress will be evaluated. It could have these things. Set up change control process, because we have to always make ourselves ready that change will happen. Once you develop a plan, you have to make yourself ready that the plan may be revised as per the changes. Environment is in the continuous change. The only thing we know in our environment, the only thing we are sure about concerning our environment is the fact that there is continuous change in the environment. Therefore, accordingly, you have to set up change control process. How you are going to control the change, how you are going to take action upon the occurrence of the change, and then how, by whom, how, when you are going to revise your plan will be just stipulated. Then in the monitoring and the control process, again define problem escalation process, because problem may be aggravated. If this happens, what action shall I take should be there. Monitor progress against the plan is the main theme of this part, and the revise project plan. And upon the revision of your project plan, you may go back to the plan or detailed project plan stage, and then again go through the launching of the plan, and then again you come back to the monitoring and the control process. If everything is okay, you will go to the fifth stage of project management process, which is closeout project. This includes obtain client acceptance. Upon your completion, you have to get the acceptance from your client that the project performance, the project output is as it is planned, it is satisfactory. So these things should be there from your client. And install the project deliverables, what are needed, what the project opts to produce. Complete project documentation. The necessary documents will be produced when the project goes on, and then ultimately the complete project documentation will be made ready. Then complete post implementation audit, because the overall project achievement depends on the post implementation. It will be checked by using post implementation audit. Just by audit, we mean that you are going to check the two parties, the client and the contractor, are going to check whether everything has been completed as planned. Then, if based on this, you may issue final project report. Then, depending upon the agreement acceptance from your client, depending upon the post implementation audit, the result, the final project report will be issued, so that the project is said to be completed. Handing over of the project will be taken place. The client will hand over the project, and the project is said to be closed out. This is the process we follow as far as a given project is concerned. These things work no matter how the project is small or complex, large, big project. Therefore, to remind you, the project management process consists of defining the project, develop detailed plan, launch a plan or simply implement the project plan, monitor and control the process, and finally close out the project, or project closure, or close out the project. These are the things that we are going to see in this chapter in detail. Thank you very much. We shall come up with the third video later. If you have any feedback, anything to be forwarded, you are always welcome. Thank you again.